Welcome to our video about Work Package number 1 of the Gaia-X Federation Services Identity and Trust. The aim of the Federation Service Identity and Trust is to support sovereignty over identities and build trust between participants in the Gaia-X ecosystem. This is achieved through a decentralized identity management and a trust system based on the concept of the so-called self-sovereign identity, SSI. With Gaia-X, participants in a federation will not be dependent on central authorities, as is the case today, but they will be able to manage identity features locally and on their own terms. This is necessary to guarantee Gaia-X core values such as sovereignty and transparency. Gaia-X is based on the trust between participants, data and services within a federation. This trust is achieved through so-called self-descriptions. The self-descriptions are user profiles of the participants of a federation. They can also be descriptions of offered services or data assets. Through the self-descriptions, all participants know who they are dealing with in a federation. In addition, it becomes clear by which provider and with which assurances, services or data assets are offered. Self-descriptions are validated by the participants of a federation according to self-determined rules. Participants in a system validate each other on the basis of individually agreed evidence. This is what we call a decentralized and self-sovereign trust system. Automated processes and software components cryptographically and automatically check the credibility of a participant's statements and claims. But before we dive into the services, let's first address the question, how does decentralized identity management work? And why do we need it? In decentralized identity management, verification of participants' details does not take place at a central office or via a single prescribed verification method. Instead, all participants in a federation are empowered to exchange and validate credentials and other information directly among themselves. For example, to confirm the identity of a member, no central institution is needed in a Gaia-X federation, but various participants in the system contribute a part to the validation process, presenting verifiable credentials to each other. With this approach, Gaia-X marks a paradigm shift from today's systems, where control of identity and associated information is either placed in the hands of a select few, or there are interoperability issues when multiple companies want to collaborate. Next, we turn to the concept of self-sovereign identity. Self-sovereign identity means that participants retain control over what data and details are shared with others throughout the verification process. This can help, for example, to comply with the European General Data Protection Regulation. Now that we have learned the basics of decentralized systems, let's dive further into the individual service components of GXFS, Identity and Trust. The Authentication and Authorization Service. This service allows Gaia-X participants to request verifiable, decentralized cryptographic credentials and identify attributes from other participants in a federation. The Authentication and Authorization Service also allows control over what information is shared with others. Thus, we are moving away from a system in which identities and access roles are centrally defined, and we move towards a model of so-called attribute-based access control. With this approach, Gaia-X breaks with the old role-based access control models and solves previous interoperability problems. Additional trust is achieved through the decentralized approach with modern Web3 building blocks and cryptographic methodology. Next, the Organization Credential Manager, OCM for short. The OCM is a software service used by organizations to issue digital access passes to employees. It allows companies with multiple employees to configure a self-determined and easy entry into a federation. It also allows software services and data assets to be provided with a digitally verifiable seal. For example, The OCM helps organizations cryptographically create verifiable self-descriptions and manage credentials and certificates of employees, data or services. Industry-leading World Wide Web Consortium standards form the basis for this. Next, let's look at the Personal Credential Manager, PCM for short. The PCM is a software component used for credential management and authentication. It is used by individual participants or even by individual employees of an organization. From a technology perspective, the PCM is developed as a user-friendly mobile app, browser-based or cloud-based application. The PCM is comparable to a personal wallet, in which important identification documents, certificates, and authorizations are safely stored. In our context, these important documents are called credentials. Credentials are issued by organizations to their employees. Official documents can also be used. The PCM also helps participants keep control over which credentials are used for authentication and authorization purposes. Through this logic, even machines or digital twins can be authenticated and authorized, enabling trust-based machine-to-machine communication. Lastly, let's look at the trust services. The trust services are the technical implementation for enforcing usage policies of the decentralized and sovereign components of Gaia-X. The trust services make use of cryptographic validation of the credentials provided. Other functions include the introduction of trust anchors with verification standards, the establishment of rule-based trust on an attribute basis, and the assurance of trust chains between multiple participants, organizations, and authorities. In short, the GXFS work package Identity and Trust breaks new ground for trust in the Gaia-X ecosystem. The work package Identity and Trust is based on a decentralized approach that involves all participants while simultaneously providing security. In our next video, we take a closer look at our second work package, Federated Catalog. Welcome to the Gaia-X community.